What's going on, guys? BossUp86 here, back sharing a video, and today I have a viewer response video for you guys. Now, I believe a couple days ago, or Wednesday, I believe, my little buddy of mine, Justin our Heavy Metal Maniac, made a video that I was a little interested in basically doing a response video for, and I kind of thought of these albums up on the fly. And his video was titled 5 Final Album Fuck-Ups. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that these albums are like the worst albums in the world. These albums to me is the weakest that this band, or in one case an artist, has made, and to decide to call it a career, and this is the final album that they actually went for. Now, a couple caveats here. One, I do apologize if the camera setup is a little wonky. I'm actually having it on my grandparents' computer right now, or on their printer right now, and in case you can't notice, I'm actually recording a video for the first time in about 4 or 5 years at my grandparents' house, because I'm actually taking care of the dog right now, but she's in the living room. So yeah, as soon as he made this video, I immediately knew what albums to put because, well, I basically talked about these albums in length. One of them I actually didn't really do a review of, and I have my reasonings, and I have one of the albums, but I don't have them with me right now. So, yeah, I apologize for that, and I apologize if there's a little bit of a glare in my glasses. That tends to happen. So, hopefully this video won't go for too long, and I'll be able to leave a link in Justin our Heavy Metal Maniacs, not only his channel link, but also his video link too, because give the kid some love. He needs it. Anyways, without further ado, let's kick off with the first one I have, and these are all going to be in alphabetical order. The first one I have is Black Sabbath's 13 from 2013. Of course, Black Sabbath, the godfathers of heavy metal themselves. These guys created this beautiful genre that we know as heavy metal. And this is their, technically, if you want to be technical, their 20th album, if you include the Heaven and Hell side project, Devil You Know, which I personally include because, well, that was actually going to be a Black Sabbath album until Sharon Osbourne decided to be Sharon Osbourne. So yeah, this is the final album that this band has released, and I talked about it a little bit in length, but long story short, it is my least favorite Ozzy Osbourne album with the band, and big reasons why. Number one, I think it's boring. I'm not a fan of the songs themselves. Production, I didn't actually mind. It's a little meat and potatoes for what it's going for. So I didn't hate that too much, but the band just sound bored to be there. Like, Iommi sounds like he doesn't care. The drumming by Brad Wilkes of Rage Against the Machine fame is completely sterile and is pretty bad, if you ask me. It's just so unbelievably flat and generic. Ozzy is auto-tuned as all hell. Geezer Butler's bass is good. That's the only nice thing I could say about it. But even in that, it's like, is that really the best thing you could really say? And just the songs just don't do anything for me. I know a lot of people really like it. I personally don't. There's a couple good tracks on there, like God Is Dead's good. I like Live Forever. And I think the best track on the entire album, Methodemic, which is a bonus track, is the best track on the entire album. Everything just sounds so unbelievably phoned in. Like, it just doesn't sound complete to me. It sounds like Iommi didn't care, and he didn't give a shit. And I'll be completely honest, this is where all members of the band really should have called it a career. I'll get to Ozzy here later. But, yeah, this is not a good way to end a career, in my opinion. It just sounds unnatural. It doesn't sound, complete to me. And I'm just not a fan of this album. I know why people like it. I personally don't. Alright, next up, I'm going to be talking about Dissection's Reign Chaos. That came out in 2006. This is their third studio album overall. These guys are influential as all hell in the melodic death metal and the black metal scene as a whole. Of course, Swedish legends in their own right. And their first two albums, the Somberland that came out in 1993 and Storm in the Lights Bane that came out in 1995, absolute classics in their own right. That's basically where bands like Necrophobic are really starting to take that more melodic death metal with that black metal edge to it and really get more bombastic and dynamic and more epic in terms of the quality. However, in 2006, they decided to release Reign Chaos, and I don't think I've ever heard a more bland and boring melodic death metal album, even if I could. Like, we're talking about In Flames and Arch Enemy levels of bland and generic, because, my God, I don't even know what the hell happened. First of all, the production's pretty thin. It doesn't sound all that well made. And number two, the songs are just so forgettable. Like, a lot of people tend to forget this album actually existed, and for good reason, because it's not really all that well put together. And it just is a complete flat line throughout. Like, I've never heard an album that is so flat until the next one, but this album just does not do anything for me. It's boring, generic, it's forgettable. And it's unfortunate it's the last album that this band has released, because their first two albums, I would say, is some of the best 90s albums of all time, in my opinion. And you would think, too, for a band that has such creative songwriting and has a lot of dynamics, there's little to none to speak of on this album. There's no black metal at all. If there is, it's barely on there. And there's just nothing that really grabbed me. With this one. So, yep, Dissection's Reign Chaos, a bit of a turd, if you ask me. Alright, the next one. This one's going to rustle some feathers, I know for a fact. And this one I might be cheating a little bit, because while they still are on tour, I don't really see this band making another album in the outset of things. Iron Maiden's Senjutsu. Now again, if they do release another album, this one's going to age horribly, but a lot of my takes age horribly in the outset of things. This is their 17th studio album overall, and I remember actually doing an album review for this when it came out, and I was a little bit pumped for it. It's like, okay, it's a new Maiden album. You guys have seen my review for that album. I was not a fan of it. I didn't like the production. I didn't dig the songwriting. I thought it was boring, generic, and just flat out stale. My opinions have not really changed on that album. I do not go back to it whatsoever, because I've said this before and I'll say it again when I did my Maiden ranking. They have not released a good album since 2000. I know people like Dance of Death. I know people like A Matter of Life and Death. A lot of people don't really like The Final Frontier, and The Book of Souls is kind of divisive. I personally can't stand those albums, with the exception of Brave New World, and to a lesser extent, The Book of Souls. However, Senjutsu just feels like a massive step back. Like, it just does not, it just does nothing for me at all. Like, the first two tracks I think are solid, and I really like Days of Future Past. The title track and Stratego are really damn good songs. I really, really, really like those. But everything else is same mundane modern Maiden. It's bland, the production's not good, it's boring as shit, and it just does nothing for me. Absolutely nothing. Like, why in the hell are you having a near 10-minute song within the first 4 tracks of your album, when the first half of your album is most likely 50 to 60 minutes, and then disc 2 is 30 minutes with 3 tracks that go 10 minutes long? Why do you insist on doing that? You are not Dream Theater. You're not even Queensryche. Not even good Queensryche. You're Iron Maiden. You want to know what an epic song's like that's less than 5 minutes? The Trooper. You know, there's so many great stuff, you know. Number of the Beast, Run to the Hills. This band knows how to make, like, long songs and make them well crafted, like Rhyme and Ancient Mariner, especially Powered Slave. But just because your song is 10 minutes long does not automatically make it a masterpiece. That screams a band that has no identity what to speak of. They are consistently lost, And I have a feeling it has to do with the fact that Steve Harris, that A, doesn't know how to shave his goddamn eyebrows, and 2, he doesn't know when a song is supposed to end. Like, why do you think I hate A Matter of Life and Death so much? Because that album is a complete snooze fest. And that's what Senjutsu is to me. Like, the only really good thing I can say about the album is the album cover. Like, the album cover looks awesome. The album isn't. Production is thin. I don't like the production on this album. Kevin Shirley is not really a good producer on the outside of things. And this is a matter of what could have been. Well, I actually do like Writing on the Wall. It actually is pretty cool on the outside of things, but this album is just there. It's a very there album for me. And if this is the last album that the band's going to the band's going to do, then I hate to say it, but you ended on a complete dud if you ask me. Again, why do you think I like Priest more than Maiden in more ways than one? Yeah, I'm sorry, this album does nothing for me. It's a complete bore fest. It's dull, it's uninspired, and it's just not well crafted, in my opinion. Alright, the second to last one. Oh, this one's going to piss people off, I know for a fact. Ozzy Osbourne's Patient Number 9 that came out in 2022. Oh boy, this I think is his 13th or 12th studio album overall. And it is not a good album. I would dare argue this is the worst Ozzy album of all time. And this is including 13. At least 13 had a couple good riffs. And had some decent songs. Patient Number 9, I really struggled to find anything enjoyable for. It is completely lackadaisical. I think it is completely lazy in terms of the songwriting. The riffs aren't really that good. The production is muffled as all hell. The only thing I can really like about this album is that Taylor Dawkins, the late great Taylor Hawkins, the late great Taylor Hawkins from Foo Fighters fame, got to play drums on the album on a few tracks, which I think was pretty cool. Even though I think the album was released after his untimely passing. But he was able to do a couple drum parts, which I thought was really cool. But I just don't get the hype. I don't get the appeal with this album. Like, I've said it before, I've never been an Ozzy guy personally. I kind of feel like his solo career for, I would say a good chunk of it is pretty one note and pretty cut cloth and generic. Like, I've said this before. He should have retired after Osmosis. Like, after he made that album, he should have flat out retired, because after that, it was just a massive steep in quality, because Down to Earth was a bore fest beyond belief. Black Rain had its moments, but it felt like a B-grade Black Label Society release. Scream sucked ass. Ordinary Man was pedestrian as hell. And Patient Number 9... I'm sorry, this does nothing for me. He's got like 15 different guest musicians. He's got Eric Clapton. He's got Tony Iommi, which has one of the most boring Iommi riffs. And that's saying something, because Iommi is a riff god. How dare you make his riffs boring? It's just... I don't get it. I don't get Patient Number 9. I don't want to get it personally. Yeah, I'm sorry. Ozzy should have hung it up, and he basically has. I don't think he's touring anymore, because, I mean, it's just depressing at this point for a guy who had a good run in the 80s and a little bit in the 90s, but the 2000s have not been good for him. They have really not. The last 25 years have been pretty rough for the Ozman, and I'm sorry, it's just been a downhill slope for him, in my opinion. So, yeah, Patient Number 9, very, very, very sad way to end your career. And speaking of sad, we get to my final band of today's video, Slayer's Repentless. Oh, Jesus Christ, where to begin with this? I talked about this during my Slayer retrospective, that I've always respected Slayer for what they provided in thrash metal. Even though they're a band I don't necessarily love, I like them out of the big four because of how aggressive they are. Their 80s and their early 90s output, I think, is top tier. That is top tier thrash. No one's really going to debate that. However, their 2000s output was very iffy. I did like God Hates Us All. I thought Christ Illusion was a really good album. And World Pain of Blood had its moments. Repentless, however, oh my god, I don't even know where to begin. First of all, the production sucks. I'm not a fan of the production. It is not well produced, which sucks because it's produced by Rick Rubin, who also did the last Black Sabbath album. I'm just not a fan of the production at all. The drums sound bad on that album. The guitars sound weak. The bass is damn near inaudible. And just so many things went wrong with it. Like Dave Lombardo wasn't at the band at all at this point. He left again because of because of unpaid royalties, which brought back Paul Bostaph for a second time. Jeff Hammond had passed away in 2013. He was replaced by Gary Holt of Exodus, which on paper sounds good, but then the execution happened. Let's see, Kerry King didn't care. He was mainly doing it for a cash grab, and that's essentially what Slayer has become, a complete cash grab. Hi, sis. The dog decided to finally join in. Well, there, she's gone. She's gone now. Okay, bye-bye! Anyways, yeah, this reeked of a cash grab. Tom Arroyo was wanting to retire. He blatantly said he wanted to retire because, neck injuries from all the headbanging and all that stuff. He just didn't. He had the passion for it, but his body said otherwise. And I get it. He wanted to be loyal to the fans, but sometimes you got to pipe down and say no. And not to mention the songs, I think, are pretty bad for the most part. They sound like shit. There's like 3 good songs I could think of: the title track, "You Against You," and "Piano Wire," which was the last song that Jeff Hammond wrote. And I want to believe Jeff's passing really affected the band and why the band sounded like they didn't care anymore, which... Sorry about that, which I can understand why. But at the same time, if you don't have the passion for making an album, don't make an album. Like, if you have songs that you have written but don't have them fully written out for an album's length, don't do the album. Just do it on like a little like EP or a compilation, for Christ's sake. Don't trot out there and try to give a shit when in reality you don't. And lo and behold, look what happened. You released a turd of an album. Yes, I consider this worse than Diablos of Musica, because at least with Diablos of Musica, they had a creepy atmosphere. This has nothing for it. The vocals are forced beyond belief. This album's just not good, man. I know people I wouldn't say I know some people don't think it's the worst album in their entire discography. I completely argue the opposite. I think this album sucks. This is a very bland way to end a career, and they were kind of treading water at this point, but then they went headfirst into the waters of despair and desperation at this point. So, yeah, I'm not a fan of this album. I think the album artwork kind of sucks. This album does nothing for me. And for it to be the final album in your career, pretty bad way to end it, in my opinion. So, folks, what did you guys think what are your 5 final album fuck-ups? That's kind of a mouthy title, too, by the way. Again, I'll leave a link to Justin There Heavy Metal Maniacs YouTube channel and to the video in question, hopefully. If I don't do it today, I'll do it tomorrow because I don't have my laptop with me right now, so... Yeah, with that being said, hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm curious to see what people responding to this have their what their albums are going to be. I'm very, very, very curious to see. So, yeah, if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you guys leave a like, leave a comment, tap that big subscribe button, and tap the bell so when I upload, you guys will be notified. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Most importantly, join the herd. Talk us next video. Peace out.